What if the greatest weapon humans ever created was not a weapon at all? What if it was the ability to make several minds act as one? Humans were not the strongest animals. They were not the fastest. They did not have the claws, armor, or natural weapons of many predators. But they had something most predators did not. They could depend on each other. And that changed everything, because alone, survival was often more difficult. A human by itself could be injured, cornered, outmatched. But together, even a small group had advantages no single animal could match. They could watch in different directions. They could warn each other. They could share risk. They could survive longer, not because any one person was extraordinary, but because the group was stronger than the sum of its parts. That was the first advantage, not strength, coordination. At first, cooperation was simple: a shared lookout, a shared path, a shared meal, a shared warning when danger appeared. Little by little, life became less about what one human could do alone and more about what a group could do together. But cooperation only works when people can rely on each other. If one person takes and never gives back, the group weakens. If one person disappears when danger comes, trust breaks. So trust became valuable, not because humans were perfect, but because repeated cooperation had to hold. And over time, repeated cooperation created expectations. People began to know who would help, who would stay, and who would not. That made group life more stable, not instantly, not by design, by repetition. Humans were already social before language became fully powerful. They did not wait for words before learning how to live together, but communication made cooperation sharper. It made warning faster, planning easier, teaching possible. So language did not create social life from nothing. It strengthened something that was already there, and that stronger social life created something even more powerful: belonging. Because once humans depended on groups, being accepted by the group mattered deeply. If the group trusted you, you were safer. If the group rejected you, life became harder. That is why approval, shame, and exclusion still feel so intense today. They are old social signals, reminders of a time when being outside the group could mean real danger. But groups cannot run on trust alone. People need shared expectations. Who shares? Who leads? Who protects? What happens when someone breaks the pattern? Over time, the same answers were repeated again and again, and repetition slowly turned into custom. Not written custom, not formal law, just the quiet kind of behavior people begin following before they ever name it. As groups grew, memory alone was no longer enough, so people began using symbols, marks, gestures, objects, simple things that carried meaning beyond themselves. A symbol could remind a group of what mattered, even when the original moment was gone. That made cooperation easier across time. And once cooperation could travel across time, it could begin to travel across distance too. Small bands became tribes. Tribes began connecting with other tribes. Trade, alliances, rituals, and shared customs made larger cooperation possible. Not every stranger had to be known personally, but shared systems made strangers easier to organize. That is when the bridge begins. Larger cooperation meant larger settlements. Larger settlements meant more roles, more organization, and more coordination. As groups grew, leadership and coordination became increasingly important. Not because humans suddenly became different, but because staying connected at scale required structure. So the story is not really about humans becoming social. They already were. The real story is how social life became their greatest advantage, how cooperation became trust, how trust became custom, how custom became symbols, how symbols helped groups grow beyond the small circle, and how those growing groups slowly became the world we live in now. Humans were not built to survive apart. They became powerful by learning how to stay together.